Hello everyone, welcome to TryRide, the new era of learning. It is Pack 365 in Module 8. Today we're going to learn about learning ordered rules list and learning unordered rule. Okay, unsupervised learning in machine learning. Okay, let's begin the topic. So, learning ordered and unordered rules. Okay, so here comes learning ordered rules is a list and unordered rule sets are typically associated with the supervised learning for the classification tasks, where the goals is to predict a target variable based on the input figures. However, the discovery of the rules in a unsupervised learning context is also possible to primarily through technology techniques like association rules mining. So, rule-based learning is a type of machine learning where the model learns from set of if-then rules. Okay, to make the predictions or decisions. For example, a rule might be if a customer age is less than 30 and their income is high, then they are likely buy a luxury car. So like the rule based working from if and the conditions. So here the comes into the picture. Supervised learning comes into the pictures. So it is one of the a stage that by the both ordered rules listed another rule set of typically associated with the supervised learning. In supervised learning, the model of the trained on the data sets includes the both input figures. Example, age, income, and the target variables, where the broad where is the record. The goal is to learn the mapping and from the figures. Okay. So here the comes the picture of ordered rules and unordered rules. Okay. So both it comes into the picture. So in unordered rules, the rules are applied in a specific sequence. The first rule is to match the data instance. The one of the user I can say if the one that is used to make the predictions, for example, in a medical diagnosis system or a doctor might first check for a serious condition, and if the rules does not match, they move on the next rule. Okay, in this list. So this is also known as a decision list. Okay, so another rule list. In an another rule list, the rules are not applicable in any specific order. All the rules that matches a data instant the figures or that considered the final predictions might be determined by a voting mechanism or by a predefined strategy, right? So this comes into the picture. So let's come to the first learning order rule. Let's begin with the learning order rule list. Okay, typically it is known as a supervised learning. So concept is nothing but a ordered rule list, also known as a decision list. Okay, so it is a sequence of if-then rules where the order of the rules matters by the classifying a new instance, the rules of evaluated sequencing, and the prediction of the first rule that matches the instance is taking a final predictions. Okay, so what here they're saying, we can break down this into another rule list is also known as the decision list. Okay, so it is a sequence of if-then rules where they order in the crucial. Okay, so when classifying a new instant like a new data points, the rules are evaluated one by one in the order that appears. Okay, so the first rule that matches the figures, the new instance is the one of that used to make the final prediction. No other rules are considered for the specific instance. Okay, so next thing, mechanism. Algorithm like wrapper or part learn, those list by iteratively adding the rules that covers instance of a specific class and the removing those instance from the training set following a separate on contour approach, right? So here's the side of here's the slide mention of the algorithm like wrapper and the part that are used in learn those lists. Right? Those algorithm used in separate and conquer the approaches. And this means the learning a single rule it covers a subset of the training data, like a specific class that removes those covered instance from a training set. This process is repeated iteratively until no more rules can be learned, right? So, or a stopping a criteria is made. So the rule of the added to the listed in ordered, they are called or they are learned. So they are called learned, okay, order learned, which establishes the necessary sequence. So here we have applications for order rules. So primarily use it for classification, offering higher interpretability and as a decision making process in the transport. Okay. So order rule also primarily use it for classification task. A key is advantage for the method, the high interpretable sense, the rule that simple if then or statements of those. So decision-making process is clear sequence. Check of those rules very easily humans can understand. So how the model arrived to a particular prediction. This transparency is a variable in the field where explainability is a criteria, such as in finance or medicines. So like the if and this condition, if the condition one is satisfied, it's considered label 1. If no, it's generated another instantly generates another condition. Like so in this also we check if or then, if or then. So we check the another condition true, okay? So it makes an another condition in this step by step, if or then. So let's notice this point. So now comes to the learning unordered rule sets. Okay, typically it has a supervised learning work. So concept of unordered rule set is a collection of if then. Okay, where the order evolution does not matter. Multiple rules may match the given the instant and the conflict resolution strategy like voting, weighted voting, or a default rule is needed to determine the final predictions. So an unordered rule is a collection of if-then rules. The order of evolution does not matter. Unlike an ordered list, there is no sequence to follow. Multiple rules in the set might match the given data instance because the multiple rules can apply a resolution. Strategy is necessary to decide on the final predictions. The slide mentions several examples of the strategies like voting, weighted voting, and default rules. So here mechanism algorithm often to learn rules independently for the each class or discovery rules to satisfy the fitted equality matrix like supported and confidence. So the algorithm that learns the rules set of opt and discover rules the idea independently from the each class. Okay. Alternatively, they may discover the rules that meet the certain criteria quality of the matrix. So it has a support and conflicts, support and confidence. So the application also used for a classification by the potentially more complex to interpreted due to the need for the conflict resolution. So here we can say that the potentially more complex to interpret the ordered rule list that you is to need to for conflict resolution. A human looking at the rule, like a humans looking at a rules need to understand not just the individual rules but also strategy used to resolve the conflicts to multiple rules applying on the one decision process. So this is unordered decision. So decision listed based on rule sets and the unordered rule sets. So according to that, so it begin with according to that. Okay. So decision true based rule set. So unsupervised learning here. So we all know about unsupervised learning. So concept of unsupervised learning is aim to discover the inherent parent uh, patterns and the relationship within the unlabeled data. Association the rules mining is a prominent technique used for this. Okay. So here the concept of nothing, but it is a unsupervised learning. The goal is not to predict a specific target or variable. Instead, the aim is to discover the patterns and relationships. Okay. So association rules mining is the highest promote the technique in the process. So mechanism algorithm like FP growth identify the frequently item set and the drive associations rules for the rules of the form of if A then B where A and B or sets of item then frequently occurs together. Those rules are not predicting the specific targets and variable but uncovering the relationships. So the flight mentions the algorithm like FB growth, okay, frequency pattern growth. So those algorithm first identify the frequent item sets growth group of items to often appear together in the data. They then they driven association rules and they frequently item sets rules of if A then B or where A and B sets like that. So the key destination of these rules is not for predicting a specific target or variables. Okay, so relationship and for the relationship and for uncovering the co-occurrence and pattern in data. So widely used in the market basket analysis, like customers who buy a bread or butter also trend in buy milk. Okay, also tend to buy milk. So anomaly detection of discovering interesting subgroups in data. So those rules in inherently unordered. So as the purpose to is to describe the co-occurrency patterns and rather than to make sequential code predictions. So here we can say that so if we buy a, this is a classic example where the store analysis customer purchases to find the patterns like customer who's buy a bread and butter also trend to buy milk. This is can be useful store layout, product placement, and marketing promotions. So knowing the detection, discovering the item or pattern to the do not fit where the typically associated, right? So this is a rule associations. So, first, let's come to the beginning. Let's come to the starting stage of ordered rule list. So, decision list or visualization. So, how it visualize? Imagine a series of if-then statement like a flowchart. So, we have an example of an ordered rule list. Decision list could be. So, if like if refund equal to yes, then class equal to no. So, else if statement is true, it's done okay. If statement is not true, else if refund is equal to no and the material status equal to single or discovered, diverse and a taxable income equal to less than 80K, then the class is no. So else if refunded equal to no and the marital status single or divorced and taxable income is greater than 80K, then the class equal to S. So else if refund equal to no and marital status equal to married, then the class equal to no. So each rule has a priority, right? Each rule has the priority, and the first rule is then instance of satisfying the determination and classifications. So it's satisfying. So according to like this, a direction of. So refund S, no. Marital status means we want to marry, no. And if you have taxable income like 80K greater than or less than, if it is greater than 80K, so it is S. If it is less than an 80K, no. So like that, determining the refund statements. So simplification of the statements we can see here. So, unordered rule set visualization, same it is, but this little bit different. So, imagine a collection of independent if-then statements. So, same. So, when classifying a new instance of multiple rules might be targeted. So, a conflict resolution strategy if then needed to determine the final class. So, one common approach is to assign votes for each class depending on the weights of the rules targeted triggered. So, effect of rules simplifying. Rules are no longer mutually exclusive. So, a record may be trigger more than one rule. So, solution ordered rule set and unordered rule set use voting schemes. Okay. So, rules are no longer executive. Okay. So, a record may be not trigger any rules. Solution use a default class. So, we have a unsupervised rules discovered here. So, we have a scatter plots. So, visualizing an association use by plotting their support and confidence and lift and graph-based visualization represent the item has nodes and rules such as agent in the graph. So matrix-based visualization organize uh, attendance LHS, the consequent RHS of the rules along with the access of matrix. So molecular representations, so visualizing the contribution and the correlation of the items within the association rules. So overall, the conclusion. So the visualization of the ordered and unordered rules is learning is often closely tied to decision tree, and the rule-based classifiers used in the supervised learning for the classification task and unsupervised learning on the other hand, right? So both are in each and one another hand. So often focusing on the discovering the patterns and the relationship within the unlabeled data through the techniques like associated rule mining. So so while both ordered and unordered rule learning contributes to build the interpretable models, they are primary applications, and underlying the methodologies, different significations between the supervised and unsupervised paradigm ordered rules list and the built for the predictive classifications within the clear sequential flow, whereas the unsupervised execution rules aim to uncover the hidden relationships and the patterns within the data without the explicit labels. So this is the overall the conclusion of ordered and unordered rule sets in the machine learning. So I hope you guys all are understand about this topic. Thank you.